Bella Vista Community Television presents Welcome to the Gardening Show with our host, Jerry Horner. Our guests are Mayor Peter Christie and Bella Vista POA General Manager Tom Judson.
Welcome to the Bella Vista Gardening Program. I'm Jerry Horner, and I'm so glad to have Mayor Pete Christie with us today and Bella Vista POA Manager Tom Judson. And this is quite an honor to have both of you with us today. And today we're going to be talking about beautifying Bella Vista, and it's very important for the Garden Club, the Master Gardeners, the city, the POA, to beautify our beautiful city, make it more beautiful. And we're also going to be talking about upcoming events and what to do in your garden for the month of December. So the main thing we want to talk about today is beautifying Bella Vista. And of course, the POA has been involved for more years than the city. And going back, of course, the Bella Vista Garden Club was federated in 1972. Wow. But in 1979, I think both of you are not aware about the Living Memory Garden across from the Garden Club, how that developed. And actually it was a member of the Garden Club, little Jo Hackett, she was just a little dynamo. In 1979, the Country Club hillside was just woods. And it was just the normal, it was beautiful woods, but it was down trees and weeds and, it wasn't maintained. So she had a dream one night that hillside would just be stone modules with azaleas and dogwoods, beautiful plantings, and it would be a living memory garden so that people would donate money to plant that hillside and make it beautiful. So she went to the Garden Club and they approved that project, and then went to the POA and they approved it too to help. And since then, that beautiful garden has been developed. Wonderful. And also her daughter, Jo Higginbotham, donated the little bronze statue that's on the first level. It's called Garden Sense, and that was done, I think, in, I forget what year that was, but anyway, several years ago. She donated that in memory of her mother. Her mother lived, Jo Hackett lived to be 100. Wow. And we planted a pink dogwood in her honor at 100 years. So that pink dogwood is up on the left, I think, when you look at the garden. So anyway, that's the history of the Garden Club and the POA working together to make Bella Vista more beautiful.
Fantastic. That's
one of the things that were done. And then, of course, we have had the city involved in the Daffodil project.
We have, that's true.
Now, that Bella Vista Daffodil, actually, I was sitting in my garden with the Brent and Becky catalog and found the Bella Vista Daffodil, and I called Tony Lacazzi, and of course he went ballistic with it. You know how Tony is.
Absolutely.
So anyway, he went to the mayor and said, we got to put these daffodils everywhere. So we do. We have them. We had 14,000 daffodils we planted. And you ordered, I think, 10,000, 9 or 10,000.
9,000, yeah.
And had them planted?
They were planted all around the City Hall and at the other buildings that we have, such as the fire stations. And then we gave away a great deal as well. We put them into bags of 4, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, 4 or 6 or something.
And it was a first come, first serve. And I know that my wife and I planted 4, and we're now up to 16.
Oh yeah, they just keep multiplying.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. It's wonderful.
And I think we put them around the library.
We did put them around the library.
And then I don't know if there's other plants. A museum, maybe. We're going to put them around the museum.
I'm not sure if Zita put them down there. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. So I'm thinking we're going to plant them in other locations, and we're hoping the POA maybe will be planting them in the future.
Absolutely.
In different areas, because you've done a lot of new landscaping around the Country Club.
We have the Country Club, Lakepoint. We've done new landscaping, and Branchwood.
Branchwood, right. And then they just make the buildings much more beautiful. The buildings, the updates to all the buildings have been wonderful, but the landscaping really just gets you when you first get there.
And the other one we've done is Scotsdale.
Oh, Scotsdale, right.
And we
yeah.
completely redid all the planters around that building also.
Right. And also at Scotsdale, I think there's that little lake by 18.
Correct.
18 Green, and some of the neighbors. Is it the Scottsdale Friends of Scottsdale or something?
And the Lads and Lassies?
Lads and Lassies, they've done some
They've done a lot of work down
planting
there.
there.
Yeah, and we
This-
also have a fountain down at that location.
Right, right. And I know we had the Bella Vista Garden Club garden party at that location one year, and everybody just loves seeing that beautiful lake area. It was just beautiful.
Absolutely.
So the POA and the city have been doing so much to make Bella Vista more beautiful. And then the fly tires, they are involved with doing the Christmas tree. And then you get involved with that?
Correct. So the fly tires coordinated and really work with our lake staff, and they take the old Christmas trees and they put them in the lakes and they create fish habitats,
Right.
which is great for the fish population and for those who fish.
Now, where do they take their trees? Where should they take their trees?
I don't know where they've designated this year.
Okay, that would be in the paper somewhere.
That'll
They'll
come out
notice it.
in a couple
And maybe
weeks.
be on the website,
Yeah, and it'll probably be on our newsletter.
in the newsletter.
But we have a couple more weeks before Christmas,
Right,
so we have some
right.
time to figure it
Yeah.
out. But I can't remember what lake they put
They
them at.
designate different lakes,
Yeah.
different years. And I know it's really important to take the tinsel off and all the decorations
Yeah.
and all the wires and all the lights. You know,
Yeah,
some
it is-
people just take the whole tree.
Correct. It is going into the lake, and we want to make sure we don't have
Right,
any
right.
other things attached to the trees.
And then you also are doing some Christmas decorations around Reardon again.
Correct.
So you'll have a big display there?
It's not as large as it has been in the past, but
Okay.
we're concentrating on making sure that what we do right. You know, so it's a little bit smaller, but we like what
And then you have Christmas festivals sometimes too?
Well, we coming up, I think it's on the 15th. We have breakfast with Santa at
Oh.
Lakepoint.
Oh, at Lakepoint this year. Oh, that'll
Yeah.
be
I
fun.
believe he's arriving on one of our fire trucks.
Oh, is he?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, it's a combined effort. I love that when the city and the POA combine
Oh,
together.
we work together a lot.
Yeah, we
Yes,
do an
you
awful
do,
lot
and
together.
we really appreciate that. We just love it when you work together, and it makes it so much better.
It does.
It does, because we're all in this together. So,
Absolutely.
You know, and then as far as future plans, you've got something about an arbor in Blowing Springs, possibly.
So
or-
very early planning, but we're talking about creating an arbor in Blowing Springs towards the back portion of Blowing Springs, after the parking lot where the stage is located.
right, that's a beautiful area there.
Yeah,
It
we
really
think it'd be a
is.
fantastic location, and so very early conversations on that one. But I think it's
Something
going
to
to go
look
through.
for, maybe in the future.
Absolutely.
Great.
And I know that you both have been working so much on the trails.
Yes.
And is there any plans on the trails to be planting like natives, or cultivating some of the native plants along the
Well,
trails?
I know that they've put in a lot of trees along the
have.
trails.
Have
Yeah, a lot of fruit trees, I think.
Fruit trees, olive trees, pecan trees.
Olive trees.
And it was done on purpose because of the actual soil and the fact that it's not a native tree. And they wanted to have different trees that stand out and be different. We have an
see.
Arbor Day every October, and we had one again this year where we actually give away about 100 trees, first come,
Right.
first served.
Right.
And we worked with the POA, and we were able to use Blowing Springs as the deployment center. And it was peach trees, apple trees, all sorts of
yeah.
wonderful things. And again, just to give us a little more variety from just oak, and more oak. And it's worked out very well.
Right. Well, the oak trees are just habitat for so many caterpillars and butterflies, but the other trees are host plants for different,
They are.
different, have moths and butterflies. So you have to have a combination. You can't have all oak trees.
And it's also
pine
nice
trees.
to see the garden club asking people to do milkweed.
Oh, we have to do milkweed.
I remember as a kid, we had milkweed all around our cottage in Canada, and we had,
You probably
tons of
have
monarch
monarchs
butterflies.
everywhere. Yeah.
and then Dad discovered that there's a thing called a lawnmower, and he decided he was going to start mowing our acre beside the lake, and all the butterflies disappeared. But at that point, we were too young. We didn't
You
understand
didn't know?
why.
Well, for many, many years, people just didn't know what they were doing to the ecology when they
That's true.
did these things. And we're learning more. We're trying to get more native plants and more, responsible to the population of the native butterflies and insects. So that was one of the big projects we had is planting milkweed and increasing that population. So it's a great project. So we maybe think about planting some milkweed somewhere in the city.
Absolutely.
Work with that.
Definitely open-minded to it.
It's hard to propagate milkweed from seed. We tried it for the plant sale, and I think we had about 30% success rate with plants with the seeds, because it's very hard to replicate nature when it comes to milkweed. So, but that's something we maybe should work with the city and the POA and try to get more milkweed, because we need more butterflies, more monarchs. So.
We do.
And then, are there any new plantings planned for the city at anywhere?
Other than the Arbor.
Done something at the museum too, didn't you?
Well, not recently, no. Other than the Arbor, no. We're concentrating these days on becoming recognized as a Tree USA city.
Oh, that's
now,
great.
a lot of people may look at it and say, well, gosh, that should be kind of obvious. We've got a bazillion trees here. But you still have to have certain things in place to be recognized. And there is a move afoot to try and get almost every city in Northwest Arkansas recognized as a Tree City USA. And so the things that we have put in place, that we are required to put in place, is an ordinance that actually talks about the maintenance of trees, and that's going through council right now.
Oh, great.
It's more for city property and city easements, that type of thing, because we can't encroach onto the private property.
Right.
But it's the maintenance of trees, the dead trees. How do we cull them out and make sure that those that are there are healthy and thriving? And we also have set up a tree advisory board.
Oh,
and
wonderful.
that's another component of being recognized as a Tree USA city.
Right.
So that's been done as well. And then we also have to have the annual Arbor Day. And we have it in October of every year. And as I mentioned earlier, we had one this year, and that was our second one. The first one was actually staged up at the Streets Department. And again, we gave away 100 trees on a first come, first served basis.
That one.
Yeah. So we're very, very focused on that and getting that designation. But then you can't just do high fives. You have to live up to it.
Right, you have to continue it.
That's right. You have to keep at it.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Arbor Day, we do Arbor Day in March, because the true Arbor Day is in March. But it's so much better to plant trees in the fall.
Yes.
It's better to plant them, let them get established before the summer. So the Arbor Day celebration of fall is really a good idea.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, those trees go fast.
They do. I know they do. I didn't get any. I don't know where I'd put them. I have
They
so
were gone
many
in
trees.
an hour or something
Yeah,
like
they
that.
were. They were.
Yeah.
Very fast.
And just like our plant sales, we have our plant sales, and they're from our gardens. We dig them from our gardens, and usually our plant sales are sold out really fast, because they know they'll grow here. So.
Well, I really enjoy the one in May of every year.
Oh yeah, that's our big one.
And then there's one down at Allen's as well.
We have the Allens. We have the fall sale with the mums, and it's a smaller sale, but the fall sale's good. But if we could just get I know somebody was working with the companies in Bella Vista to get pots in front of their.
That's true. That was something actually that Tony and I talked about when he came full of enthusiasm about the Bella Vista Daffodil. He also said, why don't we someday talk about how do we get the businesses involved, so that every spring they will start to put out pots of flowers or having hanging plants, again, to beautify the look of all the various businesses. And wow, it's a great idea.
Some of them have done that.
Some of them have done it.
Has done it.
But I think now it's time to approach the Bella Vista Business Association and say, look, this is something that we'd like to partner with you, and let's see if we can get it done.
Now in Rogers, I know the master gardeners, and for years planted those plants in front of the businesses. They would buy the pot and the plants, and the master gardeners would plant them.
Yeah.
So they can work together. We all have to work together to make Bella Vista more beautiful.
We do.
It's really important. So is there any other plans you think of that are coming up, or things you want to work on, or
Well,
people
actually,
involved?
yes. I would like to get back into natural flowers. An attempt was made a number of years ago, I think 2 or 3 years ago, by Bentonville and the piece of land that they own down beside Lake Bella Vista. And they sowed all sorts of wonderful, wonderful wildflowers. And you may remember they came up and they were just absolutely gorgeous. But then they had a problem with some of the invasive plants coming in and very quickly killed everything. And so they had to plow it under, and it still sits there. I'm not quite sure what they're going to do next.
Yeah.
But I would love to have a wonderful return of just native flowers.
The golf courses have put beautiful plantings in of the wildflowers. Those are beautiful.
Absolutely.
But they have to be maintained properly. Now, the garden club years ago, I think maybe 7-8 years ago, we put in about $500 worth of seeds, wildflower seeds, and it was the exit into Bella Vista and the two grass areas coming up to the exit, coming up to, Allen's, Harps. And we worked with the state, and they assured us that they would be, cut at the right time and all that, and they were just beautiful the first year. And then they came and cut them down before they went to seed, so they're gone. So it's very important to know when to, maintain these areas of wildflowers. You can't just trim them when you want to. So you have to work with that. But the garden club, the wildflowers on the highway courses are just beautiful. We just love them.
Well, we try and do is our part for all the golf courses that are along the highway. So the state maintains those areas, but unfortunately they don't maintain it as often as we'd like.
Right.
So we actually have included in our budget for the last several years where we'll send out golf course personnel and maintain those areas, because we view that as our front door.
It is.
You know, we want to make sure that we make a great first impression, and so that it costs the POA a little bit of money, not a tremendous amount.
It's well worth it to make it more beautiful. I can still remember my first drive down 71, and I kept seeing golf courses on each side, and we got so excited when we saw these golf courses, because it was, there's another one, and there's another one, and we were just so excited because they're just so beautiful. Really.
Absolutely.
Now the golf course that's Berksdale that's been closed, the 9 holes.
Correct.
And you've got some plans for that, or
well, we have some plans, but
ideas
there's still
what to do.
Yeah, we're still at the idea phase, and we're trying to work through that process. So hopefully something
we'll get some ideas.
Something will come up pretty within the next year. We can get going, because we definitely need to. We don't want to have that area just sit the way it is. Now we're maintaining it so it looks nice from the street.
But you have to utilize it some
way. We have to utilize it, and we know that. And the longer it sits there, the more of it's a reminder that we haven't done anything.
Right.
So we hope to have some plans worked out in 19 so we can move forward.
Okay. Well, there's always one garden I've always wanted to see somewhere is a sensory garden. They have one at the Shelter Insurance Home Office, excuse me, in Columbia, Missouri. And of course, Columbia has the a school for the deaf there. So they have a sensory garden where it was the school for the blind is in Columbia. And they have a sensory garden where you take a wheelchair or whatever, it's raised beds, and you can feel the different plants and smell
isn't that wonderful?
Smell the oregano and the lavender, and it's just a sensory garden. So that was
very neat.
That would be something unique
in
Bella Vista, and we've got so much opportunity to do all these different things if we work together and do them. So just working and getting ideas from other people. Just saying, what would you like to see there? And I know you do that sometimes at your meetings and say, open it up to people and let them give you ideas or talk to you.
I still hold my monthly meetings where people can come in and ask questions and so forth.
And the new people coming in.
And we get a lot of great ideas from those meetings.
That's great.
And it's amazing the number of new people that are coming here. Tom I host a meet and greet along with Debbie Sorensen, who actually sets it up for us. It's held at the Country Club once a quarter. And when we first started doing it 2 years ago, we might have 10, 15, 20 people. Yeah. The last one had 65 to 70.
Really?
The last two, actually, 3.
Well, how
And we're
many-
doing another one coming up on the 10th, I believe, is it not?
On December 10th?
I think that's a Saturday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
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 So how many people are moving into Bella Vista a month approximately?
Well, I mean, if you look at the building permits for
Yeah.
new home construction, 2 years ago we did 95. Last year it was 197.
Yeah.
So it's more
And
than
this year
doubled.
we're on track
That's
to
right.
do
270?
270.
Oh my, that is amazing. I
We've
know they're
seen-
doing a lot of building.
Well, we've seen aggregate growth since the end of 13 of 1,500% in homes.
Oh my,
And there's only one subdivision involved, and that's the Country Club Villas that is just below the Country Club.
Right.
Everything else is infill. And that's almost unheard of, to have that kind of growth.
I
Where it's a
know.
it's a plot here, it's a plot over there, it's an acre over there. But it has just boomed.
that's great. And we need to get the new people involved too in
We do.
beautifying too.
Well,
Once
and
they
that's-
build their houses.
And that's
and-
part of why we have the new resident meeting, so that they can see all that we have to offer and how they can get involved, and maybe even meet some new neighbors.
and have them
That's
make
right.
suggestions about what they'd like to see in their new home.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Okay. Well, I think with everybody working together, we can make Bella Vista, a shining star in the area, because it already is, but make it even better. So, and we're always
Well,
anxious to work with.
From my first day
Yeah.
here, the mayor invited me down, and I met him the first 1 or 2 days, and
That's true.
and we've had a good working relationship ever since. I think we talk at least 2 or 3 times a week on the phone,
That's right.
and we're all in it together.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. And I noticed that actually when we had our garden party, the Garden Club garden party several years ago, that was really the first time that the Garden Club had an event that involved the city and the POA together. And it was absolutely wonderful. We've had just such good feedback. Everybody that went there wanted to go to the next one, and the ones that didn't go wanted to know when it was going to be, because they didn't want to miss the next one.
Well, and of course, the
And-
next one just happened this past June.
Yeah,
it was wonderful.
June. And again, in the National Garden Club recognized our first garden party with a national award, because it was
Wow.
just such a big event and done well. So working with the city and the POA for the Garden Club has just been wonderful, and so receptive to our ideas and offering our help to whatever you need.
Well, it's Bella Vista, isn't it?
It is. It's
Beautiful
Bella
view.
Vista. It's a beautiful
Absolutely.
view. So, well, thank you both. And today we also need to talk about what to do in your garden for December. There's not a lot of gardening things you have to do, but you do have to feed the birds. The birds need food for the winter. And I think the program right before us was about feeding birds, or bird count that Butch did. But you just have to you monitor your water. If you planted any trees or shrubs, just be sure that you monitor the water over the winter. Sometimes we get rain, and sometimes we don't. So if we don't get a lot of rain, you might have to get the hose out and get those watered. The bulbs, you can still plant your bulbs in December. I've already planted them in January.
And
if
what
the
did you
weather's
plant?
good.
What do you plant?
Well, I plant my daffodils
Yeah.
and my tulip. Now, tulips don't do too well. They're like an annual here. The squirrels like to dig them up. And they don't really come back as well as
Sure.
they do the first year. So tulips aren't really a good plant here, but they are pretty.
Yeah.
And then you talked about crocus.
Crocus, yeah. I remember
They
as a
come
kid.
up early, and
do.
crocus could be, planted anywhere. They're just little, beautiful things. They come up before anything else does,
They're
and
beautiful.
they're just beautiful. So, got to maybe do some more fall bulb planting. And the roses, after a few freezes, which we've had a few freezes now, you can mulch, but don't cut them back. If you start trimming and they have some warm weather, they'll put out some new growth, and then that growth gets frozen. So any of the roses, you may, if they're really tall, you may want to cut them back to 3 or 4 feet so they don't rock in the wind. But other than that, just leave them be till the spring. And the lawns, keep the leaves off your lawns. Everybody, wants to get rid of the leaves, but you have to get them off the lawn because they will smother the grass. So, and you've had your tropicals and your houseplants in, I hope by now. If not, they're toast. So, those
And our mums are almost finished. We had big, beautiful mums.
The mums.
And religiously, I would take them in if there's going to be a freeze or whatever.
Yeah.
But they slowly are turning brown.
Yeah, and the freeze usually doesn't hurt too, unless it's a really deep freeze. We had that one night it was 17
That was
degrees.
very cold.
That was cold.
You know, one thing we did after fall last year, we bought some mums for City Hall, and we decided let's plant them just before the bad weather sets in, and they were beautiful in the ground.
That's right.
And they never came back.
That's right. The problem with mums, if you plant them in the fall, they just don't have the time to get their roots established. If you're going to buy a mum, then when you want to keep it in the pot, protect it over the winter, and then plant it in the spring.
In the spring.
Yeah, because they just need more time to get their roots established. So, and sometimes they won't last over the winter in the pot. It depends how they're protected.
Sure.
Right.
You know,
Sure.
so if you want to plant mums in the ground, you'd have to do it earlier. You know, before they start blooming, get them in the ground. Buy them early and get them in the ground, so they have some time to get the roots
remember that.
established.
Great.
So,
remember
and
that.
they will come back every year. So that'd be great for
Yeah, it would be, because I love mums.
mums to come back every year at some of our locations. You know.
Yep.
Fantastic.
So, and as far as perennials, some of them I cut back. Don't cut back your salvia because they have a hollow stem, and the water will get in there and freeze them and kill them. I wouldn't. I didn't know why my salvia were dying every year, and that's why. So don't cut back your salvia, but you can cut back some of your other perennials. But I like to keep them for the birds. Sometimes the seeds are still there, and the birds chew on them. So. But if you have any other questions about gardening, you can go to the Bella Vista Garden Club website. It's bellavistagardenclub.com. We have tons of information on our gardening information pages. And our next meeting is going to be in January. It will be January 23rd, and it's going to be at the Bella Vista Community Church on Lancaster at 11 o'clock. And our program is going to be Women's Program at Sheriff's Department's Garden. And that's presented by Phyllis Stair from the Benton County Master Gardeners. And she's in the Rogers Garden Club also. And they have a garden at the jail, the county jail.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that. It is a wonderful garden. And the women work there, and they learn how to plant, and they learn how to, can the produce off there. Everything that's produced goes to pantries, goes to the
That's
food
great
pantries. They even have, the sheriff has now ordered 2 greenhouses. It's the first sheriff's garden with greenhouses in the country.
That's great.
So they have greenhouses. They can be starting, vegetables early. So this has been a big project, and she's going to be talking about that. And we welcome guests. Anyone can come to our meetings. And
that date again is?
That is January 23rd. It's the 4th Wednesday. And if you can come if you want, learn about that garden. But we always welcome guests. So it's going to be a great meeting. And we had our September meeting, and we had our scholarship winners at our September meeting. And some of the scholarship winners are really into, producing food for pantries and things. So that was a great meeting. So we're always involved with gardens and trying to spread the word, about gardens and do the best we can. So, but if there's something the garden club can help with, or even the master gardeners, because the master gardeners do a lot of, planting too, and maintaining. So, or not maintaining, but original planting.
Right.
So, if there's anything we can do, you just have to give us a jingle.
We will.
So,
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
and I hope you've enjoyed the program, and I hope you have a very Merry Christmas and a wonderful New Year. And next year we'll be starting a new series of programming and with new topics. And if there's anything that you think you'd like to hear about, you can just contact the studio. I'm not sure what the phone number is, but it's in the phone book, I'm sure. I just, say, hey, Google, what's the phone number
That's
for
right.
Bella Vista Garden Club? Bella Vista Community Televisions, and they'll tell you. So until then, I hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you next month. And until then, don't forget to stop and smell the roses.